Hello everyone, it's me Clayton. I just finished watching Sing a Bit of Harmony, animated by JC Staff, and it's an animated film that Funimation decided to pick up and release for a limited time from January 23rd through the 26th. Now, I initially was wondering why they decided to get this kind of film, especially considering that Belle was being released by G-Kids pretty much at the same time, or at least right beforehand. And after seeing this film, I can definitely see why. It's an interesting take on AI and how they live with human beings and how that technology has evolved. And while it doesn't bring anything necessarily new to that kind of filmmaking, it does do it in a pretty cool way that pretty much shows that while tropes are tools, that's not necessarily a bad thing. But let's get to the story, shall we? The story follows Satomi, a young high school girl whose mother works for a big electronics company that's working on an AI that can actually fit in with human society, or at least they're testing if it can. This AI is named Shion, and she has this test where she has to go through a high school for 5 days without anyone finding out that she's a robot. Naturally, there are a few little kinks to her programming where she happens to notice Satomi right away and decides to try and make her happy and be her friend, while she ends up sticking out like a sore thumb, singing in front of people, basically acting optimistic all the time, and generally sticking out the way that someone who isn't human would. So Satomi has to figure out how to hide Shion's being a robot from her friends and from everyone else, while she also has to find out why Shion is the way she is and why she wants to make her happy. But that's all I'll say about the story. The story basically is pretty typical when it comes to these human has a friendship with a robot stories, or at least the human has a friendship with a name thing here stories. It can be with aliens, it can be with monsters, in this case it's a robot. And I think it actually works out pretty well in this case, not only because both the human and the robot are female, but also because the story doesn't really use a lot of the tropes that I associate with those stories that I'm usually annoyed with. You know, the bullies trope, the completely heartless, corrupt corporate executives trope. While it threatens to have some of those tropes here and there, it does also happen to give us a lot of the tropes that I happen to enjoy from these kinds of stories. The eternally optimistic protagonist makes sense because she's literally an AI working off programming. So it makes sense why she'd act that way. The singing also is explained at a point in the film, and it helps that the actress who portrays Shion, is a really good singer, and it makes all of her sequences feel like a music video or feel like an opening to an anime. Which makes sense, considering that one of the things that she uses to identify Satomi and to get her to have joy in life is to analyze the things she likes, including a certain anime that they made up for this movie. On top of that, the voice cast is pretty well done, in both the English dub and the Japanese audio, from what I heard. I especially really like Satomi's voice actress, and there's even a character voiced by Kenjiro Suda. I mean, his voice is just so distinctive, I think I can hear it, even if no one told me it was him. And I also really liked the relationship between Satomi and her mother, especially considering it doesn't feel like a typical anime and parent dynamic. It actually feels like something that would come from that comes naturally from a kid who has a parent who's working on a project that they really want to work hard on, but you can also tell it's a project that doesn't dissuade her love for her child. In fact, part of it is out of it. And Satomi's friends are a pretty likable bunch, even if they are a bit tropey. The animation by JC Staff is also pretty well done. I definitely think the animation really happens to excel a lot when it came to the character designs and character animation, especially during some of Shion's more powerful songs. But while this movie isn't exactly breaking new ground, it's enjoyable in its own right, and that's all I ask for a film like this. That's why I'm going to give Sing a Bit of Harmony an 8 out of 10. See you next time.